Welcome. This is going to be my top 15 of 2025 in no particular order. In each instance, I'll offer a short review and explainer, but in interest of time, I'm going to keep things short. I started tracking my reading in May, and since that time, I've read a total of 50 books. For a full list of my 50 books, please check my Instagram account. You can find the location in the description. For my tracking, I use the app Fable. It has a pretty good data engine. My top two reading categories were literary fiction and science fiction. I read 37 literary fiction books and 10 science fiction books. My best reading month was May, with 11 books that month. I don't know how I did it, but I did. For you, I recorded 15 favorites from 2025. I'll reveal my top 5 after I finish this list of 15. The 15 books of 2025 were: the first book on my list is Helm by Sarah Hall. This book has a creative premise. The central character is a named wind called Helm. In reality, this weather phenomenon actually exists in the north of England. However, in the book, Helm is a character and story device that actually narrates an epic story through several ages of history. Some reviewers of this book have mentioned that they don't like the fragmented story that combines several plot lines from different eras of history. I loved the book for that reason. And in particular, Sarah Hall's characters and each story felt like they could be leads of their own book. That's how fleshed out and textured each of them were. But most readers will probably have a favorite: Nene, the Neolithic powerhouse of a woman. Hall said she spent 10 years on this book, and it definitely shows. The characters, form, and plots are all tight and well crafted into a convergent theme that speaks to a landscape shaped across eons of life. The second one on the list, again in no particular order, is A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez, translated by the famous Megan McDowell. Yes, Mariana Enriquez's short story collection is haunted and full of ghosts, but the scariest manifestations are her metaphors. Enriquez's horror fiction is inherently political and social, and her writing builds on recent Latin American literary trends in the genre. But her work it's among the most successful of her peers. The result in this book is a collection that is often deeply unsettling, and its narratives are haunted by surprising twists or turns that demonstrate the result of long term social and cultural corruption. This is the case, for example, in My Sad Dead, where neighborhood specters are symptoms of a nation and a city's slow, steady social and moral decay. My third book is Hum by Helen Phillips. This is another unsettling book, but this one tackles AI. I'm glad that I read it in conjunction with another book called Antibot, because I've noticed that a lot of fiction books about AI are really starting to get into the particulars of how humans and societies will interact with this technology. It's not surprising, given that AI has accelerated from theoretical science fiction tropes to more material relevance in the past couple of years. This book has a dystopic perspective, but its ability to dig into the things that make us uncomfortable about commercialism and AI is absolutely revelatory. After reading this, I found myself with all new anxieties about AI, and I don't mean that as necessarily a bad thing. My fourth book is Divine Days by Leon Forrest. I did a whole episode on the unfortunate publication history of this book. But just to reiterate, this is an important but long tome that deserves much more attention in the American literary canon. Divine Days is patterned on a similar structure to Joyce's Ulysses, but readers follow a main character, Joe Bear Jones, over the course of a week in 1960s Chicago's South Side as he tracks down a neighborhood legend. The novel's strength is its ability to synthesize multiple and varied references from different corners of literature and history. My fifth book is Anibot by Sierra Greer. Anibot is my most underrated pick of the year. It's a sci fi novel about a near future where commercial household robots are common. Again, AI. They serve two main purposes: housekeeping and house management, and then sex. But in every instance, they have been programmed to track and respond to their master's desires. Therein lies the problem. When all desires are met, what kind of relationships do we have? What kinds of humans will we be? The novel operates heavily on a cringe impulse. It's an adept novel that knows what buttons to push to elicit this sort of response. This book will make you feel what the kids call the ick, but in a productive way. My sixth book is A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. This one may be on my all-time favorites list. It's a narrative from several characters' perspectives, and it has several incredibly inventive chapters. Egan has complex characters, and while none of them are particularly likable, her choices to show them from different perspectives and moments in time humanizes them and contextualizes their actions, even if we don't agree with them. The result, I hope, is that readers may not like them, but they may understand them. But Egan is careful not to wholly redeem them. Number 7, Mother Naked by Glenn James Brown. This book is uneven and incomplete, but that may actually be one of the reasons I loved it so much. This is a good old revenge tale with ghosts and violence. The narrator is a medieval performer who mysteriously travels to a town to tell a story that may just unravel its social hierarchy. Number 8 is Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. I realized at one point that most of my reading that I've done on gender has been nonfiction. And nonfiction has its limits in its ability to instigate learning. It can provide general examples of things, but this book provided a qualitative learning experience. In fact, this book, more than any other, made the debates over gender more personal and more personable. Dare I say, the sex scenes were awkward, innocent, and wholesome. Just a couple of people, awkward and curious about human bodies, but complicated by the current social political atmosphere on gender dynamics. Number 9, The Wilderness by Angela Flournoy. I did not love the beginning of this book, but after the club scene, this book really takes off. While it is based in the realism often associated with literary fiction, it also includes a science fiction element. It's about four Black women who are friends over the course of decades. And Angela Flournoy writes a story about their friendship that is compelling and exciting. Number 10, James by Percival Everett. Percival Everett has been long overdue for major recognition. And while James is absolutely a fantastic novel, he has other better novels. This claim speaks not to the diminished quality of James, which offers a needed reconceptualization of a canonical American character, but to the impact of his other work. Why do I say this? James, or Jim in Huckleberry Finn, has clear motivations, but reconceptualization of a perspective on a classic character may actually be inherently difficult, and James never quite feels as fleshed out as he might need to. He always feels more like a response to the former novel, which is certainly an important response for the literary record. But so much cultural baggage has been added to James, or again, Jim, that I wonder if Everett's novel may bow too much under the weight of so much legacy and pressure to reform the character. My number 11 is Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. This book is written from the perspective of an old town preacher. His recollections jump between people and different points in time. And through his stories, you gain a broader sense of his family's history, which at times is funny and tragic. It's part of a larger series in which many of the main players get a chance to tell their side of history in some of the other books. So I think I'll check out some of these other books as well. My number 12 is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And this might be a controversial one because this seems to have divided people. Yes, this is a fiction book, but it may be better to read this as more of a flash fiction or perhaps a narrative poem. Not much happens, but the plot is not the point. It's more about the exploration of something called, I think, the overview effect, which was coined by originally philosopher and author Frank White. Try pairing this book with Tracy K. Smith's book of poetry called Life on Mars. It will pull you into the mindset needed to understand this book's perspective. I love this book, and I read it with the Life on Books reading group. The biggest standout in this book is form, which involves almost a single paragraph for the entire book. It's about the machinations in a town in late 80s Hungary as a circus arrives with a stuffed whale. Then things get crazy after that. Number 14 is Hell of a Book by Jason Mott. This former National Book Award winner was not afraid to swing for the fences. It takes a lot of risks with form by featuring two parallel storylines that at times bleed into one another. The metafictional aspects are a nice touch that allow the narrative to turn back on itself and comment on the story making process that make up the novel's central tragedies. The form makes this book a bit difficult to describe, but suffice it to say that the two storylines that appear to be separate tragically coalesce in the end. The climax is impactful and timely, but the dark humor lightens the burden of the ending while also heightening its ironic parallels. It felt like it was a little too short, but as a top criticism, that shouldn't be a disqualifier for most readers. Number 15 is a classic, The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. Cisneros' classic novel is admired by many, and it regularly appears on must-read lists. It defies many of the expectations of novel writing with its short chapters and minimalist sentences. The author has said in the past that she wanted her writing to be close to poetry, and this description makes sense. Poetry often relies less on exposition and more on silences and implications to produce its meaning, which is exactly how this book operates. The result is a novel that is high on observational writing, which highlights the personality of its Chicago neighborhood. And for number 16, I have an honorable mention. The honorable mention is a book called Careless People. It's nonfiction by Sarah Wynne Williams. I've not been able to get the details related to Careless People out of my head since reading it. While it does not shine in either writing or journalism for that matter, the tell all provides enough shocking evidence of the intellectual corruption at the heart of Meta as any other journalist publication. Now, on to the top 5 from this list. My top 5 favorites, in no particular order again: top 5 books, Divine Days, Hell of a Book, Helm, A Visit from the Goon Squad. I had a really good reading year, so I'm very happy to have shared all of these books with you. Thank you for listening. I'm Ben from Tilting at Tomes. I'll see you in the next one.